Oh my God. Hey there, it's January 5, it's nighttime, around 10 p.m. Excuse me, and I'm back in the marina, so that's the one thing I wanted to get out there right away. So I turned around again, but this time because I had a different equipment failure and I was friggin' exhausted. So here's about the outline of how it went. I left the dock at 9 o'clock Wednesday and everything was fine. I left the dock, went right out into the bay here between Isla Mujeres and the mainland, sound really, and I got this idea from David, and I think it's a good idea. The first thing I do now is anchor the boat, and then put away all my dock lines, put away all the fenders, and and kind of make sure the boat is ready to go, and then go ahead and hoist the sails. And then weigh the anchor, and then underway under sail power alone. I mean, the swell inside this sound is really quite large, depending on the wind. When the wind was from the north and northeast, it's pretty strong swell here. And I actually injured myself during that. I have a pretty bad bruise on my shin because I slipped and fell up on the forecastle, the bow of the boat, messing with while I was pulling the anchor up. Okay, so I kick off my journey with a darn injury. That hurt like hell. Big old bruise on my shin. But after that, it was fine. And the wind was out of the north mostly at that time, and I went ripping out the sound and hung a left, and I got on my easterly course just where I wanted, and I was cruising. I was hitting 8.5, 8.2 knots. I was doing good. And it was good. Until later in the day, the swell, when I got about 30 miles away, the swell really got bad, and it was a confused swell. It was not just swell like with easterly motion waves. It was swell from the north, some swell from the east, and it was, wow, very difficult. And it was very difficult to travel east because of the swell. I mean, for a while it was all right, but then some of the swell looked like it had already lined up to be northerly swell, and so you'd find yourself on a beam to the swell, and then you really roll the boat. And so, I mean, I took at least 10 rolls to about 50 degrees side to side, but damn, that's, I mean, it's a rough trip, and when you're on the top of the swells, the boat twists, so it's very difficult to steer a steady course, and when you can't steer steady, of course, it can't keep the sails full, and so it just mucks up the whole damn mess. So when you're in heavy swell, it's not easy to do much of anything, and so that's kind of like how I'll foreshadow all the stuff I'm going to tell you. So that went on all afternoon. And I had planned to go all the way until around midnight and then turn right and start heading south. That was my plan. And then just stay out in the open water and go. But the swell was so bad, and I thought it might get better, and I thought the winds might lay down like they were supposed to in the afternoon, but they didn't. So I turned south at that point thinking, I might want to cheat closer to land tomorrow. So I started working my way south. I can show you on the chart in a minute here, but I'm not really prepared for that. I don't have all that settled. But so sometime in the early evening, around I think 8 or 9 o'clock, it was dark. I heard a ripping sound, and I said, "Oh brother," and I didn't know what it was. But again, every time the boat rolls heavily, you get some banging noises, and the boom sometimes will have gravity move it. And so just as a boat rolls, if you have the boom on the starboard side and you roll the port, the boom is going to swing to some degree, and then it's going to slam back when the boat rolls. So the boom was getting a workout, and somewhere in there, the topping lift broke. and the weight of the boom dropped down, I assume, and it tore the mainsail again. So now I have another rip in my darn mainsail, right on one of the first reefing line. Again, the same place had been repaired before. And I don't have a topping lift. Well, I still have it. It's just wrapped around the shrouds at the very top of the mast. So, and I didn't know all of that at the time. All I knew is I'd heard a ripping sound, and I could see that the topping lift was gone because the boom had dropped down. And that's about all I can see from the cockpit, and I damn sure wasn't going to go topside with us rolling 40, 50 degrees side to side in the dark. There's no way. So I just said, suck it up, buttercup, let's just keep going. Because I could still sail, and I could still control the boat. And then you toss in the added factor that I had not left the wheel for 1 minute the entire day. And I was getting physically tired. My hands are tired from gripping the wheel. My ass is tired from sitting in that awful seat. My back is tired because the positioning is kind of wonky. Oh my gosh. And the only thing, I left the wheel I guess once or twice because I had a huge jug of water, which I finished off. And I had a Coke in the cockpit. And I ran inside and I grabbed food once. And I grabbed a bunch of those hard-boiled eggs and a bunch of apples. And that was it. So, and I was getting pretty loopy by the time it was like 2 a.m., 3 a.m. And I was at that point still heading south, but I was trying to cheat to like a course of say 240 because the wind was clocking to the east at this point. And so I was able to steer a little bit southwesterly as the swell permitted. And my plan was to try to get south of Cozumel and just duck in behind Cozumel and anchor and just spend 2 days at anchor if I needed to. But as I was, the swell continued to change and the wind kept rolling, so I ended up north of Cozumel. Okay, I'll put it that way. So the island of Cozumel runs more or less north and south, and I could see it would take a lot of work for me to get south of Cozumel, so I passed north of it. And at that point, and this is just me being so fatigued, I think, that I thought, fuck this, who we kidding? We're not going to take a boat with no mainsail anywhere. We need to get back someplace and fix this topping lift, whatever's wrong with it. And I didn't know at the time that the sail had ripped, but I at that point, it was like 3 in the morning. I made the decision to turn north, and now I was going with the current. And I got myself on a starboard tack, and I went screaming northward. I went pretty fast, and I got to the entrance of Cancun right around 8 or so, and I motored the rest of the way because it had started pouring rain, and it was really misty. The wind had died at this point, so there's no sailing. And I was groping through the misty, foggy rain for about an hour, and got to the marina, anchored off again, got out all the fenders, got out all the mooring lines, and put away the sails, and then came in and did an absolutely perfect expert docking. I mean, the two guys who help with the lines, they said they had never seen a boat come in so smoothly, and I'm saying, yeah, you're talking to a guy who hasn't slept in 30 hours. So I said, I'm tired, dudes. But anyway, that's the story, guys. So I'm back in the marina in Cancun, the same place I was a few days ago when I was dealing with the electrical issues. And I got a few thoughts here. They're on my computer, so I'll read a bit. So the bottom line is I've got a broken topping lift, and I've got another rip in the mainsail, both of which I'll try to investigate tomorrow after it stops raining. It's supposed to rain tonight and tomorrow. So here's the things, and I'm going to characterize all this in terms of pluses and minuses, or goods and bads. So good. I had some fabulous storm experience, okay? Sometimes I think maybe I should have ridden it out for another day or so and just heaved to and just rolled like that. And I said, well, I could have, but I also thought, there's a safe haven for me, which is easy and safe to get to, 8 hours away. So I took it and I did that. And I knew I'd already paid for up till the 7th of this month. So I have 2 days that I can stay here for no more money. So while I think of what to do next. Anyway, so it was excellent heavy storm experience. Now the winds weren't all that horrible. It wasn't terribly windy. They were gusting 25, 30 knots maybe, but not much more than that. It was the swell that really was difficult. So that was hard, and I'm glad I went through that, but whatever. So I I will say that a negative, so a positive for me is that I got some good experience, and a negative would be that I had focused most of my planning on getting the winds I needed for a good sailing solution, and I was correct in that regard, and I got just what I expected from the predictions. But I really hadn't thought through what might the swell and the sea state conditions be like. So there is something to put in my old little brain bucket is, it was the sea state that really did me in. If the seas had been, if it had been a flat sea with just 2-foot waves, man, hell, I'd have kept on going. But it was a sea state that made me unable to balance the sail rig, because every time you're rolling, it mucks up the sail rig, and so you can't balance the sails if you're constantly spinning and turning and rolling, and the auto tiller, forget it, it can't maintain a steady course on a flat day. So that meant I had to hold the wheel non-stop, and I'm serious. I mean, the whole time I was out, I didn't leave that wheel for more than 3 minutes total, So I didn't account for sea state when I did my planning. That's the mistake. Heaving to, I learned, was more difficult because I had elected to go with a reefed mainsail and my staysail only. I didn't roll out the Genoa until I was trying to run back into Cancun. That's to get more power. Because I thought with this funky sea state, once I saw what it was, I took in the Genoa and put up the staysail. And I thought I might be doing a lot of tacking, and tacking is easier on this boat with the staysail because it's self-tacking, just like the mainsail is. The Genoa is not self-tacking, not easily anyway. So I thought, what's the smart play? But when you have a self-tacking staysail and the Genoa is furled up, it's hard to heave to. So, because the boat doesn't stop, it just gets on a new tack and it keeps going. So you haven't heaved to at all. So what I did was roll out the Genoa right before heaving to, and then I turned and heaved to and let the Genoa flop against the staysail and blanket it, and it worked. So I learned that I can heave to even if I'm primarily using the staysail. I just need to roll out the Genoa a little bit when I did that. I know this is probably hard to see without a picture. I'll work on that. So what's a topping lift? A topping lift is the device. It's a line. It might be a wire rope in my case, and it's a line in many people's cases, and it's adjustable most times, I think. And it's used to raise or lower the end of the boom. Or you could put it another way, to take the weight of the boom off of the sail, so that the sail's not bearing the weight of the boom. And some people use a topping lift to raise the boom up, and that allows your sail to become more full. And so there's a lot of things you can do with a topping lift. And it broke on my boat, so I'm going to go sort that out tomorrow. Okay, so I'm going to run through my notes here. So I think that the boat rides the heavy swell very well, and I believe that I don't think there's any self-steering device in the world that is going to help you in that respect. Therefore, certainly if you're a solo sailor, I should have had a better plan for how I was going to sleep and what I was going to do for food and water. Because, just letting go of the wheel and trying to walk into the cabin to get something was an adventure, because you're rolling so much that it's very easy to get hurt walking around. Would have been safer to be lying in the middle of the floor in the cabin. That would have been the smartest play to, but anyway. Let's see here. I think it was a positive that I had pre-planned all the places I might need to run to and scurry to for safety, and one of them was the lee side of Cozumel, which I knew wasn't going to be too far away, about 6 hours of sailing away, and I also knew I could always turn around and come back to the marina. Okay, and I think it's a good practice to always think ahead, like where might you go in the short term if this gets ugly, and after 2 or 3 days, as we had talked before, I might run into Belize or someplace else. Let's see here. The cockpit. I took 2 large breaking waves that hit me in the cockpit. They didn't fill the cockpit, but I got a lot of water, and I'm happy that I had the door closed. When I saw that I was going to have heavy seas, I put the panels in the companionway, so I completely closed off the cabin, because I thought you just never know. And I'm damn glad I did that, because when I first took the wave, there were about 4 inches of water in the cockpit. The drains worked fine. and not one drop of water made it to the bilge. I mean, that's amazing. So I guess I did a good job of fixing leaks. So, but I do think it'd be better if my cockpit doors were a normal hinge door that I could open and shut easily, because to get into the cabin, I would have to raise out this big, heavy wooden teak door, and it's in a panel that slides in like a wedge shape. Yeah, so I think it would be better for me to have a hinged door that opens and shuts like a normal door, instead of these panels that you drop in. Because when you take them out and the boat's rolling heavily and I have to go into the cabin, I take out the panel, but what do I do with it? So I laid it flat on the cockpit floor, and then I run in and do what I need to do, or run back out, grab it and put it back. But I'm thinking somebody's going to get hurt one of these days manipulating that thing. Let's see here. Positive or negative, you can look at it how you like. I made a decision that I am not leaving that cockpit to go forward unless, it is necessary to save the ship. Even when I knew there was something wrong with the boom and the mainsail, I was still moving, I was still under control of the boat, and I said, fuck it, I'll sort that out, because it was dark and we were still rolling heavily. And I thought, nope, I'm not going topside, even if I have a harness on. It's just too easy to slip and hurt yourself, harness or no harness. So I made a decision to not go anywhere, and I didn't even look at the boom, frankly, until I was here at the dock. So anyway, so good or bad, that's what I did. Let's see here. So I would say I'm happy that I went through that, and so given the issue with the recent battery charging plus the event of today, the excitement I had out there, I was pretty happy with what I've learned so far. And after the battery charger thing, one of the commenters, Dreamtime, you're out there, I hope. I appreciate your comment about, so Dreamtime is another sailor out there whose, comment was like, look, dude, quit dealing with a Frankenstein, battery or, electrical system. Get it sorted and get it proper, and it's right. So if you look at this switch panel behind me, you see I've got written no, auto, no, because some of these old breakers don't work. Well, most of them are determined on the back, some are physically cracked on the back, and a few have check marks, and I'm using them. But we got to get past that. I know what equipment I'm going to have on board. It's time to properly run all the cables, get the right cables, because in some cases here it's not, well, in most cases it's not marine grade wire. Almost all cases. So I need to get the right cables, and I need to route them properly in a sensible way, and get the right switch gear to run it all, and do the same thing for the AC panel. So this is the AC panel here, and it is even worse than the other one. So this little science project here was a temporary voltage source and ground, 12 volt ground, bus bars that I used. And I did that only because I didn't know what was going to be coming or going, and now, I haven't touched that in months, and it's time to make all this permanent. So I appreciate that that feedback, Dreamtime, and I'm gonna get on that. So I think I still want to run down to Belize, but I don't know how quickly I can get that sail fixed. I think I can fix a topping lift tomorrow, but the sail thing, I don't know if I'm gonna try to fix it myself or try to get somebody else to fix it. I don't know. I could probably go out to sea with it the way it is, the old duct tape repair job. I mean, if I had to, I could do that. I'm still thinking, so I'll take a day or two to think about that. I'd like to do one more trip and then get the right weather and then head for Florida. I need to be in Florida by March, for a family event. And I can't be a bell tapper waiting till the last minute. So I'm kind of strategizing what's the right way to play the next couple of months. That's all. So, and when I get to Florida, for sure, I'm just going to do what I need to do to completely rebuild the AC system, completely finish the DC system. I have most of the materials for the AC system already. It's just a question of doing it, And I always thought I would do that when I was at anchor somewhere for a week. Maybe I'll do it in Belize, who knows. So, AC electric, DC electric, and galley, and just get it done. I want to exit the science project space on this boat. And I can do that while I'm waiting for the family event and while I'm waiting for my girlfriend to get her visa. So, that might be the right thing to do. But I want to do one more sailing trip first. Okay, so now I'm going to squint because this is a small font. So small notes that I jotted down. The new one. So the cockpit canvas cover is good, and it does an excellent job of keeping the cockpit nice and cool. So much so that when I left yesterday, it got cold, and I had to put on my coat. It does provide really good rain protection. There's a gap between the solar panels and the cover, which I told the guy to leave in there because I want to rig up some kind of rain collection device, and that's going to work good. I can see the rain all comes out there. I just need to make a gutter. I mean, I'm just going to buy a plain old plastic gutter, really, and run a drain or hose down to a bucket. I think that's all we'll do. Okay, my engine is a great little engine. You know, that thing is 42 years old, but it is a trooper, and I am just loving the engine, and I'm very, very glad that I spent some time with the engine. If you recall, when I did the sea trial of this boat, the engine overheated because previous owner did not have any fresh water in the engine at all. It was like empty. You know, and the seawater strainer was completely clogged, and the heat exchangers were dirty. Everything was in bad shape. So I think I did the right things on the engine, and once I finally raised the voltage on the starting battery and rewired the push button, I mean, that thing, if I decide I need an engine, no, I don't think, oh my gosh, it's 42 years old, don't touch it. You know, it did great. A great little engine. All right. So with I'll call it almost flat seas. So when I first cleared Punta Cancun, and before I got into the heavy swell, I did some experimentation with that northerly wind, and I found out I can beat to windward about 50 to 60 degrees from the wind and move pretty good, and I don't heel too much. I mean, that and I can balance the rig. So those are pretty important learnings for me. My battery light's flashing. Gonna lose you guys. My chart plotter was essential to find the marina in the fog. Okay, and I'm glad I did that. I'm good at stowing for sea because nothing in the cabin moved. But out in the cockpit, I do need some kind of gadget holder, a place to put my chart plotter, phones, bottles of water, stuff like that. Right now I'm sitting them on the cockpit seat. I need to do something better. And I guess that's all I have for my notes. So, that's a lot of damn talking. I appreciate you listening. I'm going to try to, I'll see if there's any videos or pictures I need to take to add to this, but we're all good here. I'm going to sit here and just sleep today because I hadn't slept all last night, and I took a 3-hour nap today. But I'm going to put this video together and then go back to bed, and tomorrow we'll wake up and have a new day. And we'll fix the topping lift tomorrow and try to get this and get the mainsail off. I think that's what I got to do tomorrow. I got to take it off and then look at it and just see how bad it is. And I'll probably watch a YouTube video about how to fix mainsails, because I know I watched a YouTube channel from Patrick Childress, and I know he had an episode for that. So rest in peace, Patrick. I'm going to go watch your video again and see if I've got the materials to make a patch. Try and maybe do that myself. Take care, everybody. I did not hear the line part, this thing break. What I noticed was that ripping sound, and then I noticed the boom was hanging a lot lower, and when I tacked, the side of the boom swing and it hit the boom gallows right here. So this boom gallows, the boom gallows holds the mast, but it's really holds it while you're in storage. It's not really meant to be run when you're running the boat. So when you get underway, you're supposed to hoist that puppy up with the topping lift so that the boom passes the gallows. And I did that. And then, so what made it break, I don't know. But I do know that when I finally had a chance to look, and it was not easy because I could hardly ever let go of the wheel for more than a second. But this morning when the wind kind of laid down, I took a look, and that's where I saw this line dangling. I had no idea where that was until it got light out, and then I saw the mess I've got to go do there, and I noticed that I ripped my mainsail again. So, oh yeah. That's the same place I ripped before on the first reflight. I don't know why, but it did, and and I did the reflying correctly this time.